Hoopus. You've probably never seen me talk, but you've read my work. It's good to see you all. I'm here with Ed Isaacson with NBA Draft Blog.com. He's the owner as well as a contributor. You can find him on Twitter at NBA Draft Blog. Ed, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, and where you came from?
Well, after sort of a long career in law, I decided that it was time to finally get involved in my dream, which is to work in basketball. 5 years ago, the site started as just sort of a place for me to hone my skills, and next thing I knew, there were actual people reading it, and then it just seemed to get bigger from there. I'm still a one-man operation. And, I have to split my time with the site, for that site, and plus doing draft work for NBC. But it's still a lot of fun just sticking to my basics I started in the beginning, just giving detailed scouting reports on the players every year.
Awesome. I had no idea you worked at NBC. We'll have to talk a little bit more about that later. Or contributed to NBC, I'm sorry. The NBA Draft Lottery is May 19th. The draft is June 25th. The Wolves obviously finished 16-66. They're the worst team in the NBA, a bunch of young talent on the rise, yada, yada, yada. They have a 25% chance at landing the number 1 pick, 21.5% chance at the number 2 spot, about an 18% shot at the number 3 pick, and then at worst, number 4 at 35.75%. Flip Saunders has said what you have to do is that you probably have to take the best player available. Paraphrasing, he has essentially said that teams in the past with one of these top 4 picks have made mistakes drafting to fill a need or a position player. Would you agree or disagree with that? Do you think he's got the right strategy going into the draft, or is he a little off base?
Well, I mean, those are basically the two strategies that most people have each year. You're either going to look to fill a need, or the best player available. Now, ideally, the best player available strategy is the one you want to go with. The problem is, in this draft in particular, I think is when it's going to work that way, is after 1 and 2, after the top 2 guys, you have, probably 7 or 8 guys who are all at similar levels of talent. So which one of those is the best available? You're likely then going to go based on need. So, I mean, no matter how he wants to put it, chances are, unless he's getting one of those top 2 picks, there's still going to be a need, decision made. I don't know exactly the T-Wolf situation yet, and what he wants to do, but my guess is that, need will be considered in some way.
Yeah, and when you go 16-66, it's hard for the best player available in any draft class to not fill some sort of need or be able to contribute positively right away. Well, let's just break into prospects. What I did, we'll have a little fun at first before we get into the seriousness. Lane Bashro has contributed to Canis Hoopus. He's big on statistics, great statistical mind, does things that I couldn't even imagine doing, and he actually has created his own tool that you can find on lanebashro.com. And what I'm going to do is I'll name a prospect. I'll give you 4 or 3 player comparisons from Lane's model. He admits that some of the comparisons aren't very good, so if you hear a name that shocks you, don't laugh too hard or try to put too much thought into it. But we'll start with Karl Anthony Towns. Lane's comparisons, I have Tim Duncan, Greg Ostertag, Robin Lopez, and Zach Randolph. Any of those fit the bill, you think, or
Well, here I think when you're using the statistical models to do this, the numbers are. I mean, you can have guys who put up similar numbers, be somewhat similar size, and be just very different players. Tim Duncan, I mean, I could see that down the road. Cool. I wouldn't be surprised. He might. Depends on how teams use him. I think Towns is a guy who, once he gets comfortable playing on the perimeter, will start doing that a lot more. I mean, he can end up being a stretch 4 for most of his career if things work out the way he wants to. Yeah,
I wouldn't mind a Tim Duncan in Minnesota. I know Wolves fans probably wouldn't either. Some of the positives I have listed for him: shooting form, size. He's a better passer than people want to give him credit for. Great vision. He's really an all-around great player in every facet. I guess the question is, will he be able to mature into his body, develop more of an efficient back-to-the-basket game where he gets a lot of his touches? Some of the knocks on him maybe were post offense, not quite as explosive as he needs to be right now, as well as getting into foul trouble. He only played 20 minutes a game in school last year. So what can you say about his upside, and then what are you worried about with him taking the next step?
I mean, the foul, just you mentioned the foul trouble, and that's, again, this is sort of where it comes in. When you look at the numbers just on their face, it doesn't look good. But when you've watched Kentucky and you know how their defense worked, and the fact that they would have all their perimeter guys pressured, knowing that if they get beat, they'll have Towns, sitting in the back waiting. So he was put in a lot of bad situations he wouldn't be put in, probably at the next level. So I wouldn't be so concerned with that. My biggest worry about him is he's always been kind of soft, even as a high school player. The only time in last year, the only times you really saw him aggressive was, when he would go up against these undersized big guys. Towns is almost 7 feet, 260 pounds or so. And he looked fantastic when he went up against 6'7" and 6'8" big guys. So it'll be interesting to see, how when there's someone who's willing to push back, how he's going to react to it.
I know I have a stat here. Draft Express has he turned over 18% of his possessions on the low block, so he's kind of indecisive in his back-to-the-back post game, not quite as refined as Jahlil Okafor, who we'll talk about in a minute. Are you familiar or well-versed with John Calipari's platoon system?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Can you expound a little on it? I don't know too much about it, and I'm sure there are people who know less than I do.
The way his program has worked the last 4 or 5 years since he's been there is he brings in a top class full of guys, and more often than not, that whole class will usually leave in a year. Last year ended up being a bit different, where the freshmen, a big group of the freshmen decided to stay, but he had already recruited his next group to come in, so he's left now with, in his mind, he has 9-10 McDonald's All-Americans on his team. So in order to keep everyone happy, he came up with this platoon system. He broke each group in, 5 and 5, a blue squad and a white squad. And early on in the year, he would literally sub in 5 guys in, 5 guys out. Each platoon had 2 big guys, a point guard, and a couple of shooters. So they were very balanced groups. Until Alex Poythress got injured early in the year, and then all of a sudden you're down to 9. So the platoon isn't working the same as it was, because he didn't add a new guy in. He just kept his 9-man rotation. So but the way it worked is, guys would only play between, most guys averaged between 20 to 25 minutes a game at most. And for a lot of the younger players, it really wasn't great for their development.
And did it have what kind of impact would you say it had on Towns, if any at all, that an NBA scout would be concerned with at the next level?
I don't think there's anything for the scouts to be concerned with, because you have an understanding of what Calipari's doing.
Sure.
He said, so having that in mind, that his development probably didn't come along as well as it should have last year, because he's not getting the court time, which is probably the most important thing for these young players to develop, is to actually be on the court. And he wasn't in a lot of situations because Calipari had that luxury of being able to put different groups in, depending on what other teams did. So, it's not going to hurt him in the long run. It's just going to have him a little bit behind, say, someone like Okafor, who was out there as much as he possibly could.
And in your opinion, do you think Karl Anthony Towns should be the number 1 pick, regardless of which team has that selection.
No.
You
I think it really depended on the team. I think there are some teams that if they get the number 1 pick, I really think Okafor would help them both short term and long term over Towns, especially because you know exactly what you're getting. Towns is still more of a work in progress.
Yeah, and that's the jump right into Jahlil Okafor next, who did sign with Bill Duffy, who is good friends with Flip Saunders, as most know. The Lane Bashro comparisons I have for him may shock you. I have Andrew Bogut, J.J. Hickson, and Chris Webber. Again, these aren't necessarily accurate. In Lane's description, he says this, so we're not putting any beef on him. But any of those strike you as accurate, or
the Chris Webber one is interesting. I wish I really would like that to see that one work, but no, Bogut. I mean, I could definitely see a Bogut impact. Especially, I think one of the things with Okafor is he gets sort of a bum rap for his defense, which admittedly isn't great. But once he's been with an NBA training program and things like that, he's not going to be as bad as a lot of people want to make it out to be during this this couple of month period before the draft. So I think he can even become a Bogut level defender down the line. So
the rim protection thing is a skill that you can see him develop, even though that's his biggest knock.
I mean, he's not going to be the most explosive guy around the rim ever. It's just not the way he is. But he's not going he's going to challenge you. I mean, he'll try it now. He just doesn't have the movements down yet. That a lot of the shot blockers have to get into position. Once he does that, again, I don't see him, being a guy who's going to, lead the league in blocks or even be close. But he'll be enough of a threat that'll make teams think, and that's going to be the biggest step up for him.
Sure. Sometimes the biggest issue is just be a willing defender and let everything else come. Well, the low post game, it's been well documented. He's a very polished post player. From the few games that I've seen, it's pretty incredible how he's able to maneuver, how comfortable he is in the post. He also draws fouls on 18% of his post-up possessions, according to Synergy, and he shoots an incredibly high percentage around the rim. The offensive rebounding is a skill I don't think people value a whole lot with him. Something like almost 4.5 per 40 minutes. Is that a skill you think people have undervalued and gotten lost with all his offensive qualities?
I think with guys at his size, it happens generally that you just sort of, are willing to push it off to the side a bit because at the college level, you're really not going up against a lot of similar guys. So a lot of these offensive rebounds will be, guys just sort of, missing a shot, getting their own rebound, putting it right back up again, while being surrounded by guys who are 6'7", 6'8". So yeah, I mean, I really think he will help a team, on the boards on both ends. But I wouldn't expect him to be great at it at the NBA level.
We saw a lot of Andrew Wiggins this year, and there was a lot. He's got the second jump with the offensive rebound ability. Is Okafor's ability similar to that, or is it less of a second jump and more of what you said, just being bigger than everybody else on the court?
And smart. I mean, he's a smart player. He has that sense that a lot of good rebounders have, that he has a good idea of when that shot goes up where that rebound's going to be. He definitely doesn't have that second. No, I don't know anyone who has that second jump ability like Wiggins, but most big guys don't really have that, and especially with Wiggins' size, he's very bottom heavy. So you're not going to see him. For him, it's more about being smart, getting position. And just the biggest thing for a lot of these guys, just get your arms up. With your size, if you put your arms up, more often than not, you'll get your hands on the ball.
Well, I think the big question, and the one that people at the Canis Hoopus community wanted to discuss, is the evolving NBA. We see the 3-point trend. something that the Wolves aren't necessarily keeping up with. But has the post-up game become more of a 1B option? Is it still a 1A option? Are teams able to say, work through Okafor and go work through him in the post, work inside out in a sense, or is it becoming more of a complementary game? And do you think he can be effective with both of those at the next level?
I definitely think if you have the right guy, it could still be your 1A option to run everything through him. Especially if you have the shooters on the perimeter who will love getting the space that a solid big guy can give you. Look at it in Sacramento with DeMarcus Cousins, the way he's been evolving over the last couple of years. There's a place where I think once they get the guys around him, the 1A option will still be to go through him, but they just need the guys to knock down the shots around him. And I think Okafor is a guy who, that down the line, once he gets a bit stronger and a little more polished with his movements, is going to be a guy too that you can run everything through him. He sees the court well. He can get the ball out quickly. He's not a big guy. If he doesn't have his move there right away, he's not going to drag things out. He'll get the ball. He'll keep the ball moving. Very mature with, so, you don't see a lot of big guys who, if they don't have the ball at the first spot, they'll get it right back out and reset in the post and look to do it again. He has those kind of things, which you're lucky if you see them in a 23, 24-year-old post. He's 18, 19, and he's already doing it. So if you get him, I could still see him being your primary option down the line.
Yeah, I know he said before he's been double teamed since he's 12 or something like that. So he's very comfortable in the post. I know we talked a little bit about Andrew Bogut just a minute ago. And, now that we've had a longer discussion on Okafor, it is kind of fun to see Golden State run their offense on the high post with Bogut. And he sort of has, he'll have the ball. He'll have guys cutting around him, cutting to the hoop. And that would be a cool thing to see on the Wolves, provided they get some shooters, which they don't have very many of right now. What would be your biggest concern with Jahlil Okafor going to the Wolves or any other NBA team?
Right now, his game is very limited on the offensive end. Is very limited. He's a low post guy. And depending on what the matchups are going to be, he has to be a little more versatile. And you talk about putting him at the high post. That wouldn't work right now because he's no threat to do anything. So, it's something that he's going to have to add down the line. And I'm not, when you've been like someone like him, as you mentioned, he's been double teamed for so long. He's one of these kids who was a post player from a very young age. So for those guys, a lot of times it's tough to make any changes. Or changes are going to be drawn out because they're so used to doing what they do. And I think it may take 3, 4, 5 years before we see Okafor sort of make his game a little more versatile on offense.
Would you classify his 3-point shooting in the same sort of needs to improve area? It might take a while. Is that sort of a release thing, or is it a fundamental, or is it purely in his head?
There's definitely there are fundamental aspects to it that could be worked on. But for a lot of it, it's going to be, making those, little changes to the mechanics, and practice. And, once he gets comfortable, he should be fine. I'd say he's not going to be great. But, when you see the national championship game this year, and you see him pulled out of the game down the stretch, that's not a great thing.
No, I completely agree. It is a concern, especially when you see all the DeAndre Jordan and the Haka conversation. And you just don't want sort of that extra baggage. I know it's pretty moot in terms of the overall big picture, but it's just something you don't want to have to deal with. Just make your free throws.
Yeah.
So he's the number one overall pick, regardless. You think over Towns? You don't think Towns is the number one?
Yeah, well, we can call them 1A and 1B. Because they're very different. They're very different players, even though they're both big guys. I think Towns may have more, more upside, more potential. You can definitely do different things with him down the line. Okafor, you know what you're getting, and he's going to be productive. So, but I think if Towns becomes the player he could, that you hope he could be, based on the skills he has, he could be better than Okafor. It's really, you're not going wrong getting either one of them is probably the best way for me to put it.
I do agree. It is sort of a two-person draft. If you're the Wolves, you have the worst record. Really suck to land outside those top two. If they do land at 3, I have D'Angelo Russell. The Wolves taking D'Angelo Russell. I know he's a guy that Flip scouted before. Combo guard, body type, 6'9" wingspan. He's 6'5". He's 180. Still 19, so he's still growing. Scored 19 points a game last year. He shot 40% from behind the three-point line and just under 50% on everything within there. Sort of the same. I guess he doesn't really have a defined guard position. Is he more of a 1? Is he more of a 2? What have you seen? What have you seen?
I think if Russell has his way, he would be at the 1. The guy just loves to have, he loves to have the ball in his hands. And about halfway through this season, his coach at Ohio State basically said, okay, that's what we're going to do. We're going to let you do whatever you want out there. And he's surprised. He definitely surprised me with his passing ability. And he has a pretty good understanding of how to make reads on pick and rolls already. I don't know. I know people fall in love with his numbers, but having watched him game after game, I'm not the biggest fan of his. He to me is a guy I think who will put up numbers in the NBA, but will never. He's not going to be the point guard of a team that wins. They're going to win playoff series. He's the guy who's going to be flashy. He's going to be able to knock down shots. But I don't know a lot of guys who are going to want to play with, who will be happy playing with someone who wants to dominate the ball as much as he does. So unless he changes that, it's going to be a tough situation.
I will bring up the player comps that I forgot to bring up at the beginning. I have Vastro's player comps as Brandon Knight, Ben Gordon, and Delonte West. Does any of those strike you as accurate?
Brandon Knight's an interesting one. Brandon Knight, again, was one of these guys who you sort of saw at Kentucky. And, the thing when you have these guys at Kentucky is you don't really understand. They all buy into what Calipari's doing, and it's a different kind of system. I think the player that Brandon Knight has become over the last year or two, is comparable to what Russell may become down the line.
I got to admit, I sort of like the sound of that in theory when you consider D'Angelo Russell would be paired in the backcourt with Ricky Rubio, who is also a point guard with superior passing skills and phenomenal vision, looks to distribute. Do you think that tandem could ever work as a 1-2 punch? And what flaws would you see if not?
I think Rubio is the kind of guy who could make it work. Again, the biggest issue with any team going forward is going to be getting Russell to buy in and, know that it's not going to be on him. He's not going to be the number one option. If he goes to a place like Minnesota, it's going to be Andrew Wiggins. It's going to be whoever else is out there. And a lot of these guys who are like, these high volume, shooter scorers, who come into the league, that's one of the toughest adjustments they have to make, is realizing it's not their show anymore. But if the coaching staff can get him to buy in, and let him sort of, learn to run, know that Rubio is going to find him in good spots and he'll get his points. If he buys in, he has the talent, to really make the T-Wolves a better team.
Yeah, that's an interesting pick too, because you wonder, just from a T-Wolves perspective, how long Kevin Martin's going to be on the team. If Levine is put in the starting lineup and he is paired next to Rubio, does that move D'Angelo Russell? Could he be a 6-man type of role. So I think that's an intriguing situation if the Wolves are to draft him at 3 or even higher. Just one more question on D'Angelo Russell. Do you think he needs to extend his range? I've heard a little about his shot form. He might need to tweak it.
It's an odd shot. He shoots it almost out in front of him, so it's a very low release. Yeah, I mean that's something when I get around to writing about him in the next month or so, that I'll definitely going to point out. There are a couple of guys in this draft who have that sort of issue, where they're able to get away with that at the college level. But there's one of the things that I do like about Russell is he just has a way of creating space. So on top of that, the list of concerns, it wouldn't be the highest. But it's just something that to make him a better player, if he makes that little change, it just makes him, a bit more attractive as a player for everyone.
And does, as far as the range goes, do you think that's a valid critique, or do you think he can shoot well from beyond the arc already?
I think for any guy coming in the league, making that adjustment to almost a 3-foot difference is going to be tough. But now Russell has the sort of body that I'm not concerned about. He'll be able to put the strength on where it's not going to be an issue for him down the line. I said the bigger thing for him is fixing the shot, so he has enough space to get it off.
And I don't know if you were watching, people seeing this tomorrow are going to be thrown off, but Wizards Hawks earlier today, when you say creating space, I think Paul Pierce, the guy, he's not very fast anymore, not very mobile. He never really has been, but damn, that guy can make room for his own shot, and he can get a shot off. Let's move on to the next one. Willie Cauley-Stein, which may not be your pick. There's been arguments made for the Wolves to take him at the 4 spot if the Wolves are to fall there and he is to fall there. That may be a little high to you and other draft experts. I have first, let's do the obligatory comparisons. I have Josh Boone, Scott Pollard, and Patrice Young. Any of those?
I think he definitely has the personality of Scott Pollard. He's a guy who will definitely make your team a little more interesting if you have him around. I mean, his game, we'll get to it in a minute, but his game is very odd, and it's very tough to find any real comparison to it because I've never actually seen a player develop in the way over a 3-year college career the way that he has. And that's not necessarily good. It's a very strange way he's gone about it.
Is 2 questions. Is that a product of the Kentucky, what Calipari has going on with all the talent that is cycling through? Is he sort of that middle-aged sibling who sometimes is remembered, but other times he just gets lost by the wayside? And then I guess the follow-up question, you mentioned his attitude. Can you talk a little bit? I hate to ask you to talk about, but can you talk a little bit more about his attitude? I know it's been touched on before, but I've been pretty ignorant on all this draft stuff up until last week when I started to do some brief reading, and I just understand, from my understanding, he may not be completely invested in basketball as a career.
Yeah, that seems to be the way people want it. I don't think it's as cut and dry as that. I mean, I really, I sincerely believe that Cauley-Stein loves playing basketball, and he wants to be good at it. But I don't think it's going to be. I don't know if he'll ever put the effort in that a lot of teams will want to see him do it. Like he's not going to be a guy who's not going to show up. But he's not going to be the first guy in, last guy out kind of guy either. I think he enjoys more being part of a basketball team than he does wanting to be the best player that he can be.
Do you think Kevin Garnett could have an impact on that, hypothetically?
Yeah, but I think it's not the kind of thing that can change in a year. I mean, how much longer? If they can find a way to keep Garnett for a couple of years to sort of tutor him, that'd be great. But yeah, I mean, it could definitely be tough. I mean, exposing any young guy to Garnett is going to help them. Cauley-Stein though may be a bit more immune than others would be. Just because there's something unique about going through that Kentucky system, and playing in that state with the way that the players are treated down there. That sort of, in a lot of ways, they're treated like pros already. And so for a lot of them, it's not as tough an adjustment to the NBA, but Cauley-Stein, I think, is one who, it's going to be shocking to him when things aren't, he's not as loved as he was in Kentucky overall this time.
Just looking at his intangibles and his stats, his game is intriguing from on paper. What I was able to see was the NCAA tournament, and I did like what I saw in the NCAA tournament. On defense, he looks sound. Over his career, Kentucky had 3.5 blocks for every 36 minutes, nearly 2 steals for every 40 minutes. The offensive rebounding is something that strikes me that would be a Flip Saunders attribute that he would like. His career, 4 offensive rebounds for every 40 minutes at Kentucky. So I think that's intriguing. The other intriguing thing with Cauley-Stein is, could he, in theory, become a dominant pick and roll player with somebody like Ricky Rubio or Zach LaVine, Andrew Wiggins as well. Let's see, where do I have it? 61% on field goals as the roll man, non-post-up situations. And then in transition, he's nearly 80% on all shots in transition. So he's good in the open floor with guys like Wiggins, Rubio, and LaVine, guys who like to get up and down the court. That would be a nice compliment. So as a fit, from what you know about the Wolves, do you think he could fit all personality issues and all of those other variables aside?
I think he would fit. I don't think he would be I don't think if you have him, he's going to be sort of your starting big man. But I think he would be a good fit, and and if you play him, 20 minutes a game or so, I think he could really be great for a lot of teams, especially teams that like to run the floor. I've never seen a big man, maybe other than Tyler Zeller, who could run the floor like he did in college. And he was, that's where his offense was, which is the biggest concern I've had with Cauley-Stein is it's not so much that his offense is raw. It's the fact that he's a 3-year college guy and it's so raw. We're not talking about a 19-year-old kid. Cauley-Stein's going to be 22 by the time next season starts. He's not new to basketball. He's been playing. So it's kind of hard to figure out how can he still be so bad, as an offensive player.
This sounds like the Adrian Payne issue, if you're familiar.
But even that, and Payne is light years ahead of Cauley-Stein, as an offensive player.
Yeah.
So that's what's going to get people, teams, when they talk to him, we're going to have to try, get the answer out of him is, how does this happen? How have you not taken at least one significant step on that end of the floor over 3 years? And then if there happens to be a reasonable answer to it, then fine. But I want to know what it is.
To be fair, he did improve his free throw percentage throughout his 3 years, but that's a minor thing in the scheme of things. Well, if the Wolves do fall to number 4 in the draft, is Willie Cauley-Stein somebody you consider there based on what you know about the Wolves, or what are some other prospects or options you think would be available and a good fit?
There are guys like Justice Winslow, who I think he's not going to be a star for you, but he's going to come in and do a lot of the things that his coach will want him to do, want his team doing. He's going to go out there. He's the kind of guy that Garnett will actually like having, because the kid's going to go out there. He's going to play hard. Another guy who can run the floor really well. Incredibly strong for his age. Then his offense. We're talking about Cauley-Stein's offense being raw. In a lot of ways, Winslow's is as well. But he improved throughout the year. And I think he'll at least become, I think an average 3-point shooter at the NBA level would be generous, but I think he can do it. So he's the guy. He's not going to be the kind of pick where everyone's going to get overly excited about. But if you're a coach, you'll be happy having him on your team.
I have a few player comps that I just pulled up just to stick to the theme here. I have Matt Harpring, Chuck Hayes, Jamal Mashburn, and Brendan Dawson from Michigan State in 2012.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see the Brandon Dawson one. The sad part is Dawson just never really became the player we had hoped he would in college. But yeah, I mean, it's again one of these things that you sort of Winslow was at his best in college when he was playing sort of an undersized four. Because he was just able to bully guys. And that's exactly what Dawson was. I think Winslow's going to have to become more comfortable, on the perimeter and playing as a wing, for him to really be worth a high pick for teams. But yeah, I mean, I could definitely see some of those. Matt Harpring's an interesting one, but I could definitely see him being some of those a lot of those traits are in him.
From just a random question popped into my head from what you just said. Do you think he could play the four in small ball lineups? Is that's something you see possible? I know we saw it with Chase Budinger in the Minnesota Timberwolves, or is he still? Are you saying he needs to work on his perimeter and ball skills and outside shooting before something like that's able to happen?
Yeah, I mean, if your goal is to make Winslow the best player he can be long term, you want to get him comfortable on the wing as early as you can. No, but I think he's so comfortable as an undersized forward that a team can use him right away in that role. In a small ball lineup, and I think he'll be fine as long as you don't restrict him to that. I think it would be good for him to do it early on.
We haven't talked. Well, first of all, any other prospects you think the Wolves should consider at 4?
No, I mean, they said this draft is it's a two. To me, it's a two-person. Emmanuel Mudiay will be probably up in in that range as well. I don't see him really being a great fit with the T-Wolves. So I said, this is where we discussed, is Flip going to go, best player available. There's a chance when he gets to his pick that Mudiay is going to be the best player available, and I'd be shocked if he takes them, if he took him. But the rest of this draft, when you look at 3 through 13, 14, to me are all just the same kind of guy. So you really can't go. You really can't go wrong if you take any of them. Look at a guy like Hazonia and Porzingis and whoever else sort of ends up being around that range. Once workouts start, you'll see guys start to move out of that late lottery and sort of get consideration at 5, 6. One guy to sort of watch out for with that is Kevon Looney, who I think teams with his physical attributes are going to make him attractive. He's nowhere near ready to play at the NBA level, but with the right team and the right situation where they can sort of mold him, I think he's a guy who will be better in the long run than people sort of assume right now. Even though I'm not a big fan of him where he is. I think he really needs the right special situation to turn him into a good NBA player. But if the team has the support, it would be interesting to see if someone take a chance on him that high.
This is who I lost track who we were talking about.
Kevon Looney.
Kevon Looney out of
UCLA.
You see how I've kept oblivious to all the draft stuff. When you're the worst team in the league, it's probably not a good idea. Well, again, this has been awesome. I'm talking with Ed from NBADraftBlog.com. You can follow him on Twitter at NBA Draft Blog. The one last thing I will discuss begrudgingly, there's been discussion. You mentioned his name, Kristaps Porzingis, 7'1" power forward from Latvia. What can strengths, weaknesses? He's skinny, but he can shoot. I suppose the softness would be one of his caveats, especially for a team that needs rim protection. What can you tell us about him in a general sense, and where do you think he'll fall in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, again, we're looking at this another one of this current trend in 7-footers who don't like playing in the post. He'd prefer to spend all day sitting on the perimeter shooting the ball. And he's good. I mean, he definitely can shoot. Defensively, he's not particularly quick for his size. I think you can probably turn him into a good rim protector down the line. But from what I've seen, I don't see a lot of the great instincts that great shot blockers have. I think a lot of every time I seem to watch him play, he just seems to sort of be coasting out there. Again, we're talking about a guy who seems like his physical attributes. But in terms of him being ready to be an NBA player anytime soon, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't work out at all with him.
That's a scary thought, because I know there have been murmurs that Flip has put in a little effort scouting him, a little more effort than people may want him to pursue, I guess, considering if the Wolves don't land one of the top 2 picks, that would be a disaster scenario, regardless of who they draft, in my opinion. Ed, thanks again for taking this time with us. Any final thoughts? Anything you want to tell the people? Already hit your platforms pretty hard. So again, that's at NBA Draft Blog, NBADraftBlog.com. I know it's on the Fansided Network. Tell Michael hello. Michael Dunlap and I go back farther than you may think. So
it's just my favorite time of the year. So just looking forward to another. We have the lottery coming up. We have the combine coming up. So there's a lot going to be going on. A lot of opinions are going to change over the next 7 weeks.
Hey, that might be a reason for us to do another show. So might have to follow up.
Yeah, no, this is going to be the most important time for the teams and for these players. It's going to be a chance for teams to get to know them at a much different level. Again, check back in another month or so, and a lot of these guys may be viewed very differently after they've had some time to spend with the teams. So I wouldn't, best thing is not to reserve judgment a bit until we get closer in terms of how players may actually translate.
Absolutely, cool heads will prevail. I know the draft combine is a couple days. I have it written down, but it's a couple days before the draft. That's likely not going to change much, I don't believe. So maybe we'll have to do this again. And again, I really thank you for coming on, and we appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Great talking to you.